Making up most of our atmosphere at 78%, nitrogen is one of the most important gases for life. From farms to oceans, nitrogen plays an important role in keeping the planet's balance. Today, we will tackle how these elements cycle through the earth, how it affects the lives of people, and how people can affect its course. As much as nitrogen is needed by most living things, it cannot be used as it is in its gaseous form. To make this fit to use for living systems, it has to undergo nitrogen fixation. For nitrogen to be fixed, bacteria living in the roots of plants will have to work to convert atmospheric nitrogen into usable ammonia or NH3. This ammonia is then used in fertilizers for crops, which is then assimilated using plant roots, after which these crops are consumed by humans. From here, nitrogen returns to the atmosphere once organic matter dies. Through the process of denitrification, denitrifying bacteria will aid nitrogen to return for the cycle to begin again. Take humans for example. When we decay, we go through the process of ammonification and nitrification. Ammonification makes use of bacteria or fungi to convert nitrogen to ammonium, while nitrification makes use of nitrifying bacteria to convert ammonium to nitrites and then into nitrates. When other factors such as human activities interfere with the cycle, this becomes an altered cycle. From the name itself, there is something that has been changed within the regular cycle of the biosphere. Here, there are two primary means human activity releases nitrogen into the environment. First, by the combustion of fossil fuels, which releases different nitrogen oxides. Atmospheric nitrogen is associated with several effects on Earth's ecosystems, including the production of acid rain as nitric acid and greenhouse gas effects as nitrous oxide, potentially causing climate change. Second, by the use of artificial fertilizers containing nitrogen and phosphorus compounds in agriculture, which are then washed into lakes, streams, and rivers by surface runoff. A major effect of fertilizer runoff is saltwater and freshwater eutrophication, a process whereby nutrient runoff causes the overgrowth of algae and a number of consequential problems. Combined with the climate change we're experiencing, the altered nitrogen cycle only further increases the vulnerability of our biodiversity, food security, human health, and the quality of water. Let us first start with its effects on our biodiversity. As we know, biodiversity is the variety of life in our world or in a particular habitat or ecosystem, and climate change has been one of the leading causes that is directly affecting it. Species continue to be threatened and vulnerable due to climate change. Some of the most important remaining tiger habitats in Asia's mangrove forest are threatened by the rising sea levels. Consequently, the species is at risk of extinction. Even Australia's Great Barrier Reef might lose up to 95% of its living coral by 2050 due to changes in ocean temperature and chemistry. Additionally, eutrophication from the altered nitrogen cycle aggravates these ruinous effects. It is considered to be a serious problem as it disrupts biodiversity and ecosystem equilibrium, especially in surface water ecosystems. Because bottom waters receive less sunlight due to the overgrowth of algae in surface waters, the depth dispersion of microalgae and seagrasses may be limited. Increased breakdown of organic matter or dead algae may result in an oxygen deficit in bottom waters. Lower oxygen concentrations can therefore have an effect on fish and benthic fauna or animals that live on the sea or lake bottom, causing them to escape or die in the area. Next is our food security. Climate change and eutrophication are both causes of food crisis and shortages in our world. Extreme weather, climate shocks, pressures, and variability that are results of climate change are ruining lives, farms, and livelihoods. Moreover, it is the principal cause of severe famine in 15 countries. Year by year, droughts, typhoons, and floods worsens and results in harsher impacts on our food supply. Moreover, if agriculture becomes insufficient as a result of climate change, taking food from the ocean may be the only way to ensure food security. But, as eutrophication affects our surface waters, and oceans being the second most important food source next to agriculture, our food security is gone. These combined effects directly affect the availability, affordability, and accessibility of nutritious food for the people, and the most vulnerable, poor, and remote populations especially are the ones most affected. Next is our health. Climate change poses the greatest health risk to our community, and developing countries are the ones taking the short end of the stick as their lack of preparedness due to ineffective resources, planning, and inferior technologies render them vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, the global temperature rise must be kept to 1.5 degrees Celsius in order to avoid catastrophic health effects and millions of fatalities brought on by climate change. Due to the increasing extreme weather events like heat waves, storms, and floods that affect food systems and human security, and increasing disease reports such as zoonoses, food-water diseases, and vector-borne diseases, more and more illness and deaths are being reported. While climate change directly affects human health, disastrous at that, eutrophication both directly and indirectly affects it. The accumulation of contaminants in eutrophied reservoirs, the surface microlayer that concentrates surfactants, and the rise in toxicity of particular compounds in these reservoirs all contribute to indirect exposure. After coming into contact with the eutrophied water or its evaporations, a direct influence on a person is seen. Eutrophication contributes to the spread of gastrointestinal and dermatological diseases. Upon inhalation of the evaporations coming from a eutrophic reservoir, rhinitis, allergic bronchitis, and bronchial asthma may occur. Face, hands, and other exposed body parts may develop allergic rashes, and minor wounds may become infected with microscopic fungus that can spread infectious diseases and cause severe skin sores. Lastly, the quality of our waters are greatly affected. Climate change's effects on water quality include stormwater runoff, erosion and sedimentation, and harmful algal blooms. As more sediments and chemical discharge are introduced into streams and groundwater systems, the quality of the water diminishes. The increasing primary production, organic matter decomposition, and nutrient cycling rates in lakes and streams will have an impact on water quality as dissolved oxygen levels will decrease. Furthermore, due to rising sea levels, water supply and quality in coastal locations may decline and may directly impact groundwater quality through saltwater intrusion. Eutrophication only aggravates these effects. Harmful algal blooms have been associated with three things throughout the past century. First, declining water quality. Second, decimating economically significant fisheries. And third, hazards to the public health. Cyanobacteria are the most significant phytoplankton linked to harmful algal blooms in freshwater ecosystems. The production of thick blooms of toxic, foul-smelling phytoplankton, which lower water clarity and degrade water quality, is the most obvious result of cultural eutrophication. Given most of the effects brought by climate change and eutrophication from the altered nitrogen cycle, we must ask ourselves what we can do to help reduce the continued worsening of these problems. There are three simple yet very important actions that can be taken for us to contribute in preserving our environment. First, we can change the mode of transport that we take. Energy generated from the combustion of fossil fuels that produce harmful atmospheric nitrogen and cause climate change are used to power transportation like cars. The most effective alternative is to walk. However, if the destination is too far away to walk, we can opt to use alternative technologies like bicycles, or instead of using personal vehicles, we can commute and take public transportation in order to minimize the amount of vehicles operating on a daily basis. Second, let us conserve energy. Energy generated from fossil fuel burning that produces harmful atmospheric nitrogen and causes climate change is also used to generate electricity. Thus, as students, we can help alleviate the problem of climate change by conserving energy in our daily lives. These include taking shorter showers, especially when using a heater, making sure to turn off the faucets, and unplugging electrical equipment and gadgets accessories such as air conditioners, lights, and chargers when not in use. Lastly, we as students can also help in alleviating the effects of eutrophication by sharing what we have learned about it, the harmful effects it has on the Earth's biodiversity, water quality, food security, and human health as discussed earlier. By doing so, we spread knowledge and awareness to the masses as to how we can work together to conserve our environment and protect the different species living in them, including us. This presentation serves as an example and a step taken towards that goal.